Yeah.
Okay, now we're live.
All right. Well, we couldn't get live. We tried and tried, but we couldn't get live. Good morning, everybody. We are trying a little experiment today. Can you see him, Carolyn, in the corner there? We've got another visitor. Good morning, Al. Can you see him when you... Oh,
no,
wait a minute, because now Carolyn is not in. So I don't know if you can see Al or not, but we have Al live with us. Good morning, Al. Wave to me, Al. Can you? Great. Okay. So Al is a very good friend of mine and a student of mine, and he's going to be joining us today and often in the future, we hope, helping out with all of this stuff. All right. So are you in, Carolyn?
I am in,
can you see Al?
I don't see Al on my end.
Okay, then you don't see Al, but trust me, he's here. I can see him very clearly. So that's okay for now. All right. So we have, as usual, with us my spirit guide, Gregor, who's standing to my right side. To my far right, also as usual, we have our lovely Carolyn. Say good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, Carolyn.
And although you can't see him, can you speak, Al? Can we hear you? We can't hear him either.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Okay. Can you
hear me?
Okay. All right then.
I don't have the sound on this, or otherwise.
Oh, all right. Anyway, we'll have to ask everybody who's watching and everybody who's joined us this morning, can you see Al and can you hear Al? And so anyway, we have Al as well. And as usual, we're going to have questions and we're going to have answers. We're going to do this live. So without further ado, I can't remember who used to say that, but it was somebody in England who used to say on the telly or on the radio. So without further ado, shall we continue with our program? All right. So do we have, Carolyn, any questions this morning?
We do. One little technical thing. Everybody is saying Al's a little too loud.
Can you turn the sound down, Al? Or can we turn the sound down? Al, can you hear me, Al?
Yes, I should be muted, so he shouldn't hear me.
They're saying when he talks, it's just
when you talk, it's a bit loud, and it does sound a bit tinny to me as well. So at least people can hear him.
Yes,
though, all right.
Yeah, we're not seeing him, but we can hear.
All right. So this is a new thing. So we don't have Al on the sofa, but we do have him somewhere out there in the universe. Al is calling us or connecting with us from Colorado. Do you like it in Colorado, Al?
I love it out here.
Good, great. All right, so let's go to our first question then. Al, can you see the chat room there? Can you see the chat room and can you see the questions there?
I can.
Okay, brilliant. So Karen's going to ask the first one and then I think we'll go to you for the second one. Let's see how that works, shall we?
Sure.
Is that working for you there?
Yep.
Okay, all right. It's a test.
All right, we've got a question from Val.
Good morning, Val.
Hi, Rosemary. Can those in the spirit world foresee the future? Our situation is dire with both of us out of work, and I'm wondering if any of our departed loved ones can give us hope.
You know, Val, usually, you know, the rule is that I don't give messages, except sometimes, of course, I do. And I'm surprised because when Carolyn's asking this question, I have Gregor who's got his hand on my shoulder, so which is an indication when he taps my shoulder or squeezes my shoulder, it's an indication that I should actually follow through with this a little bit. So yes, I'm actually going to give you a message. I'm not sure if it's one that you might like or not. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I'm going to be talking to Gregor, and this will come from Gregor, not from your loved ones in the spirit world, but nevertheless, you know, I know you want probably a message from your loved ones, but Gregor is the best ever. Yes, the spirit world can see into the future. And, you know, there are certain things they can help us with, and there are certain things that they can't, certain things we have to do for ourselves. As Al knows, because Al has been the recipient of Gregor's great information from time to time, and also his dad's information from time to time concerning his future, which is why he's now out in Colorado and loving every minute of it. Grey Eagle tells me, Val, that you are, very depressed. You're very upset and depressed, both you and your husband, and you seem to be struggling a lot financially. However, darling, and this is not criticism, this is something that happens to us sometimes when we do get so down and when we do get depressed. It's hard for us then to continue to push or to try to help ourselves. And although I'm sure that you are helping yourself in some regard, because otherwise Greg wouldn't be talking to you at all, I do think that there is more you could do. And I know it sounds a simple thing for me to say, go out and knock on doors. And, it's not just a question of making one or two inquiries. It's a question of bombarding. Just send out as many resumes as you can to as many places as you can. And don't be picky about wanting to do what you want to do. Broaden your scope a little bit. And I feel honestly that if you started to take a more active role, again, it's not criticism. I know it's hard for you to do this. I know it's hard for all of us when we're depressed to actually make great efforts. But I do feel that if you do this, I really feel I can, Grey Eagle is saying to me that the sun will come out for you and it will start to shine for you. But I do feel that there's such depression right now that sometimes it's really hard for you to work up the energy to do more than you are doing. Sometimes the future is there for us when we trip over those opportunities, and sometimes we have to go out and we have to find those opportunities. And this is the message for you. Sometimes you have to go out. You really have to search for those, for those opportunities. Now, I said to you at the beginning, go knock on doors, and it sounds an easy thing to do. But let me tell you something, young lady. I've been out and I've knocked on doors many, many times. I've walked the streets. I've pounded the pavements. I've sold football coupons. I've knocked on people's doors who've told me to do, where to go in not a nice way. When you need the money, when you really are desperate, you do desperate things. And, I know exactly how you're feeling. I know exactly where you are, because believe it or not, I'm sitting here in all my gold and all my glory and all the rest of it. And I look as if I've never, ever suffered. And I've never, ever, ever had to worry about money ever. But trust me, I know where you're coming from. I know what it is not to eat because you're feeding your child as opposed to feeding yourself. So, don't be disheartened. We'll send you as much energy and as much healing energy and as much positivity as we can. But you've got to really get yourself together and try and do that for yourself, you and your husband both. And I do believe if you work as a team, I know it's hard, but if you work as a team, I think you will achieve great things. I think you will. That's my take from Grey Eagle. All right, can we have our next question, Al? Can you see a question there?
Yes, it is very loud here, but hopefully you can hear me. Adrian asks, is there a sense of time in heaven, and do our loved ones ever get bored? What do they do all day?
That's a great question. Well, I can tell you, I know a young man who was killed he was taken out by his friends. He was only 15 himself. He was taken out by his 17-year-old friends and was executed, mafia style somewhat. I've spoken to him on many occasions. I've spoken to his parents, of course, and his brother. And he used to tell his brother that he was cloud boarding. Now, his favorite pastime, and funnily enough, he lived in Colorado, his favorite pastime was snowboarding when he was here on this earth, but he told his brother that he was cloud boarding. So I do know that people do lots and lots of things in the spirit world, and I don't think there's ever a chance of boredom, because the universe and the many universes are out there. You probably see Kachuro bouncing up and down on this sofa. He's fidgety this morning. But there are many, many things to do, many things to learn, many people to visit, and many opportunities for people in the spirit world to help our angels. So, for more on that, I'm going to suggest you read The Eagle and the Rose, because, it tells you all about it, a little bit about it in there anyway. And it gives you some ideas of what people do. The second part of the question, I've forgotten now. What was it? What was the second part of the question now? Maybe he's not.
Apologies. The second part is, what do they do all day?
You're not paying attention.
I lost the stream.
Oh, okay. Second part of the question was?
I think you answered. Do they ever get bored, and what do they do all day?
Oh, okay. So the answer is no, they never get bored. There was you see, Grey Eagle is now talking to me because you're not paying attention here, because I think she asked about time in the spirit world as well. Is that right? Yes, I know.
Yes, that was the first part of the question.
I know that Grey Eagle knows these things better than we do. So time, there is time in the spirit world, but it is of a totally different concept than time here. In some ways it's faster, in some ways it's slower. It's a very complicated issue. We don't have time to talk about it here fully, but yes, there is time in the spirit world. It's a blink of an eye. At the same time, it's much longer and much more involved and very weird. Anyway, but there is time, yes. Okay, Carolyn, do we have the next question from you, please?
We do. We've got Lisa from Vermont.
Good morning, Lisa from Vermont.
She says, I'm so happy you are on live. I am hoping you may have a message from my father. I'm
here most Thursdays in the mornings.
I miss him so much. His name is Henry.
Lisa, I don't, but I am going to. I was like, all right then. I'm giving messages this morning, it sounds like, which is not what we usually do. That's not what this show is about. Although we do from time to time give messages, and when I say we, I mean Grey Eagle and I, or Grey Eagle through me, we give messages. And I think the biggest issue that you have here, Lisa, according to Grey Eagle, is that apparently your dad was misunderstood by a lot of people. I think he was a really nice guy. He probably misunderstood himself too a little bit. But I'm told that he's safe, that he's well, and that he is often visiting. So he's often with you. So I hope that helps you for now. And don't worry, all that other stuff that was going on there, it's all sorted out. It's all solved. I don't know what the other stuff is, but Grey Eagle does. I'm hoping you do too, because I know that it wasn't always an easy situation. Let's have our next question, Al. Did you lose me?
Nope. So Tanya has a bad energy question. She says that she has bad energy around her, and at certain times, if family member is around, something bad happens, and she wants to know what she does to kind of combat that.
I love you, darling. I think you're beautiful and wonderful. We've talked about this a trillion times, and as soon as I can find time, I promise I will, and that's all I'm saying to that question. Carolyn, do you have a question?
Simon says,
good morning, Simon.
That's funny. We have choice. But
Simon says.
Yes.
Okay.
We have choice, but will Spirit direct us on the right journey if they would like us to work with them?
Yes, we all have choices, and the spirit world, the people those in the spirit world will direct us in which way to go. And Al knows this again, right? Al, I'm going to ask you to give a little synopsis of you in a minute. Are you listening to me? Just nod your head if you can hear me. Yeah, good. Okay, so next up is you to give a tiny synopsis of you. But here's the thing about the spirit world: they do guide us and they do steer us. Unfortunately, though, we have to listen. We have to know how to listen. We have to learn to listen. And if we only half listen or we only partially listen, that's no good. So we have to learn to listen to them and to pay attention to them, and also then to trust them and to trust ourselves as well. So, Simon, I know you struggle because I know that you want to, to do more. But it could be that you're simply not ready yet to do more, or it could be that you're ready and not paying attention to your environment. Talk to Kay. Okay, Al, you're up. Synopsis of Al.
So I do try to listen to what my sixth sense is telling me, what the spirit world kind of guides me to do. I also do have trouble kind of getting through the everyday things that get in the way and kind of cloud the ability to connect. But I am, lucky enough to be pretty connected, and I listen, daily and connect daily with your help, obviously, Rosemary, to help that guide, everyday decisions, short term and long term.
Okay.
So it's okay.
Yeah, that's good. There's a sound behind you in the background. It sounds to me like there's a TV on or something going on in the background there.
I think he's at like a coffee shop.
Oh, are you a coffee shop?
Yes, and it's very, very busy.
Okay. That's all right. We don't care where you are. It works for us. Okay. Carolyn.
Sandra asks, how did you connect with Grey Eagle in the beginning? It's so cool.
Good morning, Sandra. Thank you. It is cool. The Eagle and the Rose is what you need to read. It tells you every little detail of my beginning. Actually, not every detail, because you can't put everything in a book, can you? You'd have a big, huge tomb there. But yes, if you read the Eagle and the Rose, but when I met Grey Eagle, it was the turning point in my life, and he's amazing, and we've been together now publicly for more than 20 years, I think it is. Yeah, publicly. We've been together forever, but publicly, writing books and going on telly and all that sort of thing. We've been together for 25 years, I think, something like that. A quarter of a century. Didn't think I was that old, did you? But I am, I'm afraid. Al, next question.
So the next question's about astrology signs, Gemini and Sagittarius. He's the caretaker of his father, and he's Gemini, and actually he's the hot-headed Sagittarius, and his father, I think, is Gemini. From what he says, he wants to know how he deals and interacts based on the astrology signs.
Okay, what's his name?
His name is, just lost it. It's actually a woman, Lisa.
All right, Lisa, yes. All right, good morning, Lisa. Actually, I don't know too much about astrology. If you were to tell me soul signs, I would be able to help you totally and absolutely. I would be able to give you all of the ins and outs of it. I feel, though, that you have difficulty here. There's some energy clashes going on. Although I'm told by Grey Eagle that you really do a great job. I know that it's tough, but if you could tell me at some point, either today or another time, what your soul sign is. Remember, Soul Signs is our new book that is Carolyn's favorite book in all the world, right? If you could tell us that, check that out and tell us that, then I can help you much, much more. And I would be able to tell you in absolute detail where you need to work on things and where your father, how you can deal with him so that you could form a much, much better and a much stronger relationship. This is what Soul Signs is about, really. Soul Signs is all about yourself and your relationship with yourself and your soul, but also about relationships with others, including husband, wife, children, boss, you name it, every aspect of a relationship, brothers and sisters and so on. Soul Signs can help you. If you want to know who is the right person for you, who your soulmate is, it tells you what to look for and how to find that person who you are truly, truly compatible with. It's a book that I feel should be in every household, but of course I'm biased. But Carolyn also feels, right, that it should be in every household all across the world. It should be everywhere, because this is the key to understanding relationships of every kind. Would you agree with that, Al?
I would agree with that. And Lisa says she has that book and she's going to check it out.
That's brilliant. She needs to look and see what soul sign she is. And then she needs to look and see what soul sign her father is. And then you can see the compatibility or non-compatibility. You can see the areas where you will both clash And once you see those areas, you can do something about it. Remember the key, the golden key is first your soul group. Forget the soul sign, because you've got 12 or maybe 13 choices. You've got 12 choices, Lisa, just 12 choices for you. And if you start with the soul sign first, it will confuse you, because we're all a lot alike in so many areas. First, your soul group. Are you an earth sign, an air sign, a water sign, or a fire sign? When you choose which group you belong in, then you only have 3 choices of your soul sign. 1 you will eliminate instantly, immediately. It's a process of elimination. And then 2, you might, well, am I this or am I that? But you working through it, as it shows you how to do in the book, you will discover what soul sign you are. Once you find your soul sign, you'll want to then find out not just the soul sign of your dad, but you'll want to find the soul sign of everyone around you, and everything in relationships, the problems, the issues, the joys, the happiness, the reason you get on with someone and not with somebody else, it will all be made clear to you in soul signs. So I'm not an astrologer, can't help you with the astrology, but soul signs, trust me, I can help you to come to a total understanding of relationships of every situation and every kind that you will ever come across in your life. Let's have our next question. Whose turn is it?
Elsa. Well, it's mine.
All right, go
Sorry,
on then.
Al.
she cut in on that, Al. All right, Elsa. Good morning, Elsa.
Elsa says, Rosemary, I'm going through a very difficult time. I lost my husband. Do you have any messages or advice for me?
I actually, before Carolyn even finished talking, what is it this morning? We seem to be giving messages when, anyway, I have Grey Eagle has his hand on my shoulder. So I don't know who this is, but I do see a man standing in front of me, just to my left there, and I don't know if it's your husband or not, Elsa, but this man tells me his passing was very sudden, very quick. However, he did have some issues prior to his passing. So I do feel that he was sick before he passed, but at the very end, he tells me it was a blessing at the end. So he must have been suffering somewhat, but the end came nicely and swiftly and easily. He's waving waving at me, but I know he's really waving at you, Elsa. I don't know if this is confusing you or making any sense to you whatsoever, but whoever he is, he's definitely connected to you, and he's sending lots of love and lots of kisses to you. And he tells me to tell you, you've got to get out. You can't sit at home and grieve, because that's not what he wants you to do. You need to get out, and you need to, it's all right, very, very easy for them in the spirit world to say, isn't it? Go out, get on with your life, do more, etc., etc. Nobody's saying it's easy to do, darling, but you need to work on yourself. Our job, our important goal when we lose someone that we love is to show them every day that we're trying and that we're happy, because there's nothing worse than when they come to visit us and they see us crying and grieving and not able to get on with our lives. It's tough for them. As much as it's tough for us, it's tough for them as well. And I know that you love your husband enough to really try. So can you, darling, can you try a little bit? And love to you from whoever this might be. All right.
It's Al's turn, unless he...
Al?
So you answered a little bit of this question in that response. Adrian asks, do all of our loved ones know about us in heaven, even if we've never met them? And she used an example of a great-great-great-grandparent.
And who is this again? The name of this person?
Adrian.
Adrian. Yes, Adrian, good morning. And yes, it's amazing. I actually have helped people with their family tree. I once was able to trace, it's a long time ago now that we had time to do this, and it was for a friend, so we had lots of time and it was a fun thing to do. I once was able to trace her ancestors back for her, so that she was able to then go and with a name, with an idea of who this was and so on. She was actually able to trace a family tree, and we went back something like 3 or 4 generations. It was amazing. And so yes, it's also amazing that there's a great story that I think I've told about a young man who came to see me because he wanted to connect with his girlfriend, and in fact his great grandmother, I think that's right, his great grandmother came through to talk to him, and he didn't know who she was, and it was so furious that he was, even though all the information that he was being told was absolutely accurate, he was so furious that it wasn't his girlfriend, and he didn't want this lady to be, if you read The Eel and the Rose, you'll know the story that I'm talking about here. And he didn't want this lady to, you know, become involved with him. And he went from my house, he went straight to his parents' house. And his parents were so excited. They knew that he'd have a fabulous experience, and were so disappointed when he came in and said, well, I don't know who she is. I think she's a fake. She just kept talking about this woman and blah, blah. Now, luckily, he had recorded his session with me. So his mother said, British, you see, let's have a cup of tea, which is usually the solution in England. Let's have a cup of tea and let's just listen to the tape. And they started to listen to it, and it went a few minutes. And the mother suddenly said, stop that tape. And she ran upstairs and she came back down with an old, dusty photograph album. And he told me afterwards, because he came back to see me to apologize to me, he told me afterwards his heart was thumping in his chest because his mother was going through the photograph album and he just knew what she was going to show him. And sure enough, there, standing in the photograph, was a lady, short, a little bit on the plump side, wearing a straw bow tie with a black band around it. Very clear description, holding a little book in her hand, which was my description. And she'd also given her name. And of course, he knew nothing about her. And she said to him, see that lady there? That is my grandmother, and her name is Martha. Well, all of a sudden, this guy came back to me, and eventually I think we did talk to his girlfriend, and we were able to connect with his girlfriend, but Martha wanted to come through first because she'd waited so long to say hello to him. She had been gone quite a while before he was even born, so he never knew her, never knew of her, and his mother rarely spoke of her because it was, you know, something that happened so long ago. But do they see us? Generations in the past, they do. And they can be our angels, and they can help us and guide us and steer us. It's very exciting. Don't you think it's a really exciting thing to know? All right. Do we have any comments from anyone? Any connections or comments from anybody here?
We have Sharon.
Yeah.
Sharon says, thank you for connecting with my husband last week. It brought me great comfort. I've been more aware of him being around. He's come to a number of us in our dreams since then, and everything was true.
Oh, Sharon, great. Good.
We've got Monica.
Good morning, Monica.
You're divine, Rosemary.
Oh.
I live in Argentina, and I read your first book. It touched my soul. I feel very identified with it.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Can you see any comments there, Al, from anybody? Do we have any comments from anyone who had a message this morning? I think we've given out 3 so far. We're not done yet, apparently.
Let's see. Angie's saying she absolutely adores soul signs.
Good. Me too.
Deborah and her mom say hi.
Hi.
How are you? Monica asks, how can I develop, what can I do to develop my fullest mediumship? Yes, please guide me.
Monica, I don't teach you. In my eyes, I don't think it's something that you can learn. I think if you have it, you can certainly learn to enhance it more and more. But healing, I think, is a whole other thing. So I'm going to ask you, Monica, have you thought about healing? Have you thought about doing any healing work? Because my guide, Great Eagle, seems to think that you would excel in that if you put your mind to it. So there's something to think about. Al, do we have a question or anything, a comment or anything?
Uh, Lisa asks about possible seminars in the future. Are you going to do any seminars in the future?
Al, would you like to talk about that? Would you like to answer, Lisa? Okay.
I can, if you'd like me to reveal what we were thinking about.
Yes, reveal. I think we've already mentioned it a dozen times, but yes, reveal.
You're talking about the thing where we go out in an area and be kind of out and about. Yes.
Yes, we've talked about that, but also the classes as well.
Okay, so as far as the courses go, we're thinking about doing a service, if you will, to allow people to participate in a course and learn how to become connected, learn about healing, lessons from Rosemary to really kind of get in touch with the sixth sense and get connected to the spirit world. In sort of a weekly lesson format, so that it makes it easy for people to really understand and kind of harness their sixth sense and really get in touch with themselves and the spirit world.
Now, Al's going to be helping me to do this course. Al's going to be helping me with these. I should say this course. It's these courses. Al's going to be the moderator, or whatever it is he'll call himself, in these courses, which is why we're doing this now and introducing you all. If you are interested in doing something like this, if you are interested in taking courses, they're not going to be enormously expensive. I think that most people will be able to afford them. I don't know, we haven't decided yet, have we? We're going to try to make them available easily to people, so we're not talking of thousands and thousands of dollars here. But if you want to know more about that, or if you'd like to put your name down or send me your email, so that when we actually can sort of sort this out, which hopefully is in the next couple of months, if you send us an email telling us you're interested, we will certainly send you an email when we're taking, when we're thinking of taking students in.
If I could add, Rosemary, we did something similar, correspondence, a few years back, and it was an amazing experience to have a more personalized connection with you and help from you. But also, we were able to go through it with a group of peers and really learn and share together. And I've forged friendships with people for life through that experience.
Right. I think, we'll try and make it as, a fulfilling experience for everyone. And people who do join in the class, or we're not even sure how many we're going to take in the class yet, but people who do join in the class will also have each other to connect to, right, Alan, to chat to and what have you, between lessons. Carolyn.
Kay says hi.
Hi, darling.
And we've got a question from Corey.
Good morning, Corey.
Can our loved ones move physical objects? My father told me his keys often lifted and jingled.
Yes. Yes, jiggled.
Yes,
they can. I remember, oh gosh, so many years ago now, I can remember when I first started to do this work, and I would sort of arrange things on the mantelpiece over the fireplace, and I would look at something and try to will it to move, which is really using my energy to move an object, which is very different than having the spirit world move an object. But then I remember one day I'd forgotten all about it, but I'd put certain objects on the mantelpiece, and in a certain way, so that if they moved and I wasn't looking at the time that they moved, I would know that they had moved. And I remember one day someone playing with me because the objects were moving all over the place, here, there, and everywhere. I never did catch who was moving them. That was the funny part about it. But yes, the spirit world can certainly move objects. They can certainly, it's all about, everything is about energy. They can certainly put something in our path, like a penny or a feather or something like that. When we get a gift from the spirit world, we call it an apport. That is an APPORT, an apport. is a gift. It might be a feather that floats down. It might be a penny on the floor. It could be a flower that just floats down from heaven, or our angels will send us something, or our loved ones will send us something. And that can happen fairly frequently. So always be on the watch for an apport if you know, if you're looking for that kind of thing. So yes. Al, next question.
So we have a D, just a D. I'm not sure the first name. It's a question.
Good morning, Dee.
It's a question about science in the spirit world.
Yeah.
He says, if our loved ones, or she, I'm not sure, if our loved ones are all around us, and or the spirit world is as close to us as at the end of our arms, essentially, has that energy been mistaken by scientists for a different type of energy? So I think comparing the science to the spirit world and connections there.
I can't say what scientists mistake anything for at all, but I do know, and in fact, I'm not sure which book it is of mine. There is a quote on the back from one of the very first men who went to the moon, and he read my book, and you know, it's literally went in a rocket to the moon. And he read my book and he gave us a quote, and the quote was, when you go out into the universe and view it as he did, you know, beyond a doubt, there is more on heaven and earth than we can possibly know or to understand, and anything is possible. And that's one of the top scientists. He's one of the top scientists in the world. So I do think that science and you know, those of us who believe in energy, I think, you know, the gap is way less than it used to be. And scientists, a true scientist, I'm told by a scientist, a real scientist, a true scientist is someone who can never say never, or this can't happen. A true scientist has to always be open. You know, I've met many people who say to me, well, I'm a scientist and I know that this can't happen. My experience of a true scientist, guy who went up onto the moon, don't think you can get somebody more scientific than that, tells me that a scientist, a true scientist, will never say never and never dismiss the possibility of anything, which is interesting. But I think that scientific thinking generally, not scientists per se, but that scientific thinking is coming with the gap between our thinking and scientific thinking is getting less and less and less. I think scientists are coming to the understanding that there's way more than we can possibly understand or imagine. So you can't say something doesn't happen because you just don't know. You've got to be open. You've got to have your mind open to the possibilities of all things. And that's what a true scientist is all about. Open to the possibilities of all things happening. Carolyn.
We've got Carrie. Carrie's in a lot of pain.
Good morning, Carrie.
She's very upset. She lost her dad. I was wondering if maybe you could advise her to go check out some of your videos on loss. Yes,
Carrie. I would suggest the first thing you do is race to the nearest shop and get the Eagle and the Rose. Or if you can't find it, email us and we'll send you a copy. That is going to be so helpful to you. Also, I think that, yes, check out the videos, because you'll see things on the videos and you'll hear things on the video that should also give you comfort. Now, I'm going to hand this also to Al, because I know that Al, Carrie, might want to say something to you, but because Al was extremely, and is still extremely close to his father. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, Al. Do you want to take it from there?
No, you could say. What do you want me to comment on?
I was just going to say that, you know, you lost your dad fairly recently, and it's been such a struggle for you. Is there anything that you can tell Carrie that she might want to do, or she can try to do, to ease her pain? Because you've been through that same pain. I've been through that same pain, but it was quite a while ago. Because it's so new to you, Al, is there any advice that you can give to Carrie at all?
The main advice I would give is it's been over a year for me, and I think for myself, I didn't let myself grieve at the beginning, and I think let yourself grieve and let the process flow naturally, because when you don't let the process flow naturally, it makes it worse. This is me. I tend to kind of try to be strong about it and not let that grief flow. So just let the grief flow, but don't indulge in the grief at the same time. Depend on the people that you're close to. If you have people that you're close to, depend on them. And I'm happy to have a conversation, with you as well. But depend on them, depend on your loved ones, and it doesn't feel great for a while. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a challenge, but the more it's painful, but the more the grief subsides, the more I feel him around me, the more I could hear him and kind of sense him and see the signs. And the grief is not as much of a barrier, and I can connect to him and be more peaceful.
I think that, it is true to say that grief can overwhelm us and act as a barrier for those in the spirit world who are trying to tap us on the shoulder, because sometimes we're so much in grief we don't see anything or anyone, we don't feel anything except that pain, that grief. But I think Al is right, Carrie. Allow the process. It's a grieving process. You have to let that process flow. You can't change anything except by breathing, which I think Al is saying. Just breathe. Try not to be overindulgent in your crying and your sobbing, because you're putting up a barrier for your dad if he wants to get through to you or tap you on the shoulder. He's not going to be able to do that, because the emotion, the energy of the emotion is going to sort of act like a barrier. So try, if you can, darling, to just breathe and to follow the process. I promise you the pain will subside. I don't think it ever really goes away. We always miss them, but the pain won't be nearly so great, nearly so painful. It will subside. Just hate, when somebody used to say that to me, give it time. I felt like I could just whack them. But of course, if I were not such a nice person, I might have done. But when somebody says give it time, you just want to say, oh, for goodness sake, go away. You don't understand. But give it time. Don't hit me. Give it time. Okay. Next question. Carolyn.
Sandra asks,
good morning, Sandra.
Do you feel the energy from the full moon?
Oh, well, I think, I don't just feel energy from the moon. I feel energy from the universe. And yes, of course, you're right. I don't think, I know there were tribes years ago, and perhaps still tribes who feel that the moon, the waning of the moon and the waxing of the moon and all that sort of thing is very, very important. I think it's very important because it shows us the different energy and the changing energies that are going on within the universe. The moon waxes and wanes, the tide comes in, comes out, recedes, etc., etc. I mean, it just really shows us how important energy is, because the truth is, that's what we are. We are all about energy. The universe is about energy. This world of ours is about energy. And what we can do, it is true. I had a father-in-law who actually was affected by the moon. And I know that people say it's not possible or it's an old wives' tale, but this guy was so affected by the moon. You could see it coming around, So I've been there and witnessed someone's change of mood and change of energy when the universal energy changes, when our world energy changes. And it used to affect him tremendously. During that 3 or 4 day period, it was unbearable to be around, unbearable. So it used to affect him negatively, but it does affect people positively as well. So of course, everything affects everything. Every energy that we have affects everything else. Don't dismiss it, but make it as positive. That changing of energy, make it as positive as you can possibly, be. All right. Next question, Al. How are we doing?
So I have a sort of a two-person question because they're related. So Na asks, what do Nah, it just says NAH, so I'm not sure if that's a name or just initials. He or she asks, what do spirits look like? Are they transparent or solid? And then D says that his family was driving through the country and they saw this dark figure fly across a river and hit their windshield very hard with just negative energy. So I don't know if you want to add them separate or they are related.
Well, when I see people in the spirit world, I just see people. They look just like people or children or whatever. I mean, I don't see them dressed in a white sheet floating around the place. I don't see them in any form other than as people. And so, they have arms and legs and all the rest of it. I remember once years ago listening to a medium, I'm using the term loosely, saying that the people in the spirit world didn't have bodies, they just had heads. And as I was listening to this and laughing, actually, I had a Scotsman who's a good friend of mine who's in the spirit world, just kept showing me his legs and dancing in his kilt and all the rest of it, making a point that, yes, we do have legs, we do have arms, we do have bodies. We have the etheric, what is called the etheric or the spirit body, which is the same shape, same size as, we are. And when I see them, they come to me in this form that I will recognize. So that's that. The other issue, I think it's a second person is asking this question. Something, they saw a dark shape come across a river and hit the windscreen.
Correct.
And
they want to know if it's negative energy.
Are they sure it wasn't a bird or something? I mean,
they didn't say.
See, I'm very skeptical. I like to go through all routes before I actually, I like to question and question and question. So because we can't have a conversation, I can't ask you questions personally, whoever this person is. My question first would be, are you sure it wasn't a bird? Are you sure it wasn't the wind? Are you actually sure that it was a shape? Are you sure that it was some energy, some form of energy? I'm listening to Grey Eagle and I don't feel that it was negative in any shape or form. It would be, I'm curious now to know a little bit more about it. So if you want to email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, and give me a little bit more information, I might be able to help you a little bit more. I'm not sure, really. I'm not sure if I can or if I can't. But I do feel my biggest question, Grey Eagle, was this negative energy? Because if it is, you need to know. And the answer to that quite clearly comes from him, which is no, it is not, definitely not negative energy. All right, let's have another question, Carolyn. How are we doing?
We're doing good. This is going to be more of a general question. The person that it applies to is listening.
Okay.
But I can relate to this person. I had issues with.
Do we have a name or no? Or we're not giving a name?
No, let's not give their name out. No. She's listening. I think she knows. Hi.
Whoever you are.
She sent us a couple of emails, and after this, I'll fill you in. But we've talked to her in the last couple of days.
Okay.
Okay. She is.
I'm going to call you Betty Boop then.
There you go, Betty.
Hi, Betty Boop.
Still desperately seeking the approval of her deceased parents, and she has said this when she was younger. They didn't treat her very well. They encouraged her to fail. No self-confidence, and yet she's still seeking their approval after they're gone.
Okay, I get that, because so many of us are seeking approval from someone in the spirit world, and very often it's our parents who never gave us their approval when they were here on this earth, and so they want that approval, from them, when they pass. Well, Betty Boop, let me just say this to you. The only approval that you should be after and that is meaningful to you is your own approval of yourself. I never had the approval of my mother, and I think I did have the approval of my father when he was here. He just was not able to say so to me. I've had his approval since then, since he's passed. But from my mother, I've never, ever had her approval. In fact, not only did I not have her approval, I definitely had her disdain. I had her anger. I had her fear put upon me. You know, all the negatives. Now, I have choices. You, Betty Boop, you have choices. And your choices, are you going to live your life wishing for something that you will never have? Because I know, absolutely, I'm never going to get my mother's approval. Are you going to ruin your life? Are you going to ruin it? All of you out there who, you know, desperately heartbroken because you didn't get your parents' approval, you've got a choice. You've all got choices. We all have choices. Are you going to ruin your life wishing for something that you may never have? Or are you going to get on with your life and start to find approval of yourself and to be the best person you can be and to approve of yourself? Because that's the only approval that actually matters. It's the only approval that will matter while you're here on this earth. And it certainly will be the only approval that matters once you get to the other side. If you can work on yourself and be the best you can be. You know, you can't help your parents. You can't help who your parents are and who they were. You can't help their thinking. And you certainly can't change someone's mind to think your way. You can't wish that someone thought better of you or more highly of you. You can't change that. So are you going to steep yourself in the misery of wishing for something that you will never have or may never have? Or are you going to get a life, get on with it? I'm speaking from experience here. I'm not disparaging you. I'm not asking you to do the impossible either. You can do this. Look, I approve of this question. I approve of you, Betty Boop. Does it make any difference in your life, truly? Of course it doesn't. It might boost you for a minute, but on the long term, the only approval that is going to be worth anything to you at all is when you look in the mirror and you look at yourself and you say, you know what? Whatever anyone else thinks of me, I know I'm a good person. You know what? No matter what anybody else feels about me, I feel good about myself. That's what you need to do. Here endeth the lecture.
And Lisa said, thank you. Great question. I'm struggling with this right now.
Well, get on with your life. You know, people used to say to me, I've had this question thrown at me through workshops and all the rest of it from people. The question has been, how did you forgive your parents? I didn't forgive my parents. I got on with my life. The truth is, I didn't forgive, but I didn't not forgive either. I just simply accepted them for who they are. They are human beings with their own faults and failings. I can't change them. There's nothing I can do about it. But what I can do is to make sure that I don't go that route. I don't go that mean route. I don't go that route of, you know, being mean to people as my mother was, or being disparaging as my mother was, or being too harsh in the discipline as my father was. I can only be me. And let me tell you something. I look in the mirror and I look at myself, aside from the wrinkles and all the rest of it. I look in the mirror and I look at myself and I like me. I might not be the best person in the world, but I don't mind. If I didn't know me and I met me for the first time, this is what you have to do. I say this to my students all the time. If I didn't know me and I met me for the first time, would I like me? And my answer is a resounding yes, I would like me. I'm not the best person in the world. I have all my faults and failings like everybody else. But if I didn't know me and I met me for the first time, I might want to be a friend. Can you look in the mirror and say the same thing about you? Because that's what you need to get on with. That's what you need to do. Each of us, we need to look in the mirror, be the best we can be. You can say, I'm not perfect, but yet I'm still beautiful. That's what you need to do.
And one thing I'd like to add is just a parent not loving a child is not the child's fault.
By any means. By any means. A parent who doesn't love a child is lost completely. We can't help them, but we can help us. That child can learn to help itself. Do you want a quick comment on that, Al?
Speaking from my own experience, I do have one of my parents that I can never meet what she expects of me, essentially. I've learned to, like you said, you once gave me advice about negativity and kind of toxic people in general, to kind of let it flow around and through me and just not let it affect me. It's not always easy to do. There are times that I am reactive and I struggle still with it because of how I was brought up. But I think it really is just a matter of really reminding and training yourself on an almost daily basis when you're dealing with those people to say, I'm okay in who I am. I'm happy with who I am. And I'm never going to, live up to certain standards that are put on us by this one particular parent in general.
As long as you meet your own standards, it's fine. And you have to also remember, people can be very toxic, and their cruel words or their meanness, whether intended or not, can be poison. And if you swallow that poison, then you're going to just suffer and you're going to be in pain. Don't swallow the poison. It's somebody else's poison. Spit it back at them. I don't mean literally, but just let it go. That's their issue. Let it go. Can't speak enough about this. And maybe when we do our classes, Al, maybe we'll be talking about how we can build on our own self-worth and dismiss or, just put aside other people's thoughts and feelings about us because they are immaterial to us. They are immaterial to who we are. Don't let somebody else's poison make you somebody you don't want to be. That's, okay, we're done. We've got another question.
Yes.
Only one more, maybe two or three.
Okay,
You never know.
One that just came up, her name is Maria.
Good morning, Maria.
My daughter, 16, just said she can see people talking to her that no one else can. Please help me with any advice for her. She's having a hard time.
I don't know where you live, darling. What's the name of this person again?
Maria.
Maria, I don't know where you live, so I don't even know which country you're in. If you could let us know that. Teenagers, especially, going through puberty is when our energies are often at most attuned and we are most aware.
She's in Florida.
You're in Florida, so
maybe send us an email.
Yeah, send us an email, and we'll try to deal with that for you. Try not to worry too much. It's not a bad thing by any means. It's actually a gift. But it could be simply those teenage energies and hormones and all the rest of it are doing a number on your daughter, and this is why she's seeing and sensing and being aware. She might also have had experiences when she was a little girl with imaginary friends. We have to see. Send us an email. We'll write back to you. We'll see if we can help you. Al, question? Are you there?
I think that's about it. I don't see any more questions. Do you, Carol?
Okay. Karen has one more question then.
Rugadiah says, do pendulums work well to connect to the spirit world?
A pendulum is an extension. I love pendulums. I've always worked with my students and pendulums. Pendulums are an extension of our own self and our own energy. Pendulums can be an extension of our soul. Does it help us to connect with the spirit world? It helps us to connect with energy. It's a little bit like psychometry. It helps us to connect with energy. It does not necessarily help us to connect with people in the spirit world, but it certainly helps us to connect with energy in the spirit world. And again, that may be one of those lessons that we do later on with Al, because pendulums are a really fun thing to learn to do, and also, can really expand our energy and expand our knowledge of the energy that we have within us. They can also help us to connect to our soul in a brilliant, brilliant way. So, all right. So that's it, I think, for today. All right. So if you need to contact us, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. If you need an appointment for a consultation, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. If you need to know where to find any of my books, the same applies, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us in Meetup. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram and all of those other great places that you usually find people like us. And you can find us again and again and again on YouTube. So I'd like to say thank you very much to Carolyn, and thank you, Al, for joining us. And I don't know if anyone can see, but thank you very much for your input. And of course, thank you to Grey Eagle, always and forever. Thank you to Grey Eagle. And until next time, everyone, we've had a fun time today. Thank you for your questions. I hope those of you who did get some messages, they mean something to you. We'd love to hear back your feedback from any of you out there. If you have questions and so on, you can email us with those questions, or you can wait live and, we'll do them live for you.
Simon would like to see Cachorro real quick.
Oh, Cachorro, come.
And
he's so sound asleep. Come here,
and
baby.
Kay
Cachorro.
said to tell you they've been
Come
chatting.
here, you. Come here. Look, Simon, we're doing our best. And there he is. He's asleep. Oh, he's sound asleep.
And there'll be no more chatting from my end because your tablet just died.
And so my battery just died, so I can tell you Carolyn is saying goodbye anyway. Oh, yes. Oh, I love you. I do. Oh, all right. And until the next time, please, 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 all of you, where's my hand here? Have lost my little thing there. Please, please, please. There we go. From Cachorro and from me, have a very, 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 very blessed day.